Hey everyone, welcome to Mind Over Matter. I'm your host Avik, and today we have Carlos Reyes with us, a veteran wellness coach and certified personal trainer. So, I'll not take much of your time, dear listeners, and we'll get direct to the point. So, let's dive into resilience, self care, health, and the well being. So, one and only Carlos. So, welcome to the show, Carlos.
Thank you for inviting me. It's great to be here.
So, Carlos, I mean, what does resilience mean to you in the context of health and well-being? I mean, if you can share a story of a client who demonstrated remarkable resilience.
Resilience. I'm a health coach, wellness coach, and I work with the 50 plus and over population. And a great example of resilience, one of my clients, um, she has been with me for close to 30 years. We've been working together. And health and well-being, self-care were really important to her. And then she got diagnosed with breast cancer. And she was despondent and depressed because she had spent all this time, all this effort and money trying to take care of herself, being very successful at it. And then she got diagnosed with cancer. And so that's one of those situations that you have some control over, but ultimately, sometimes no matter how well you take care of yourself, and even if you do all of the right things that you're supposed to be doing, exercise and stress reduction and eating nutritious, delicious meals, sometimes you are faced with a life-altering event. The good news is that she didn't give up on her self-care and her health and well-being, and she continued to put forth the effort to um, take care of herself. And she is cancer free and is doing really well. And just recently came back from a 3-week vacation with her sister in Portugal, and she had an amazing time.
So that's really great one. And also, I mean, I have to say that it's inspiring to hear how resilience can transform lives, especially in the challenging times. Um, Also on this, like, how do you incorporate self-care into your fitness programs?
Well, again, because I work with an older population, self-care is very, very, very important. And so when I first started in this industry 35 years ago, I was young and it was all about fitness and looking good and feeling strong. Now that I'm older, and so are all of my clients, self-care becomes much more important. Another good example, let's say, for instance, is I have a client who had just celebrated his 70th birthday. And when he came to me, he couldn't tie his own shoes. His wife said to him, I'm tired of getting down on, this is a true story. I'm tired of getting down on my hands and knees to tie your shoes. You have to do something about this. You're too young not to be able to tie your shoes. Fast forward 8 years later, he can tie his own shoes. He can lift his arms above his head, which he was not able to do. And he's doing amazingly well. And when you put that into context, right, we tend to superfluously think about fitness. Who can jump the highest, who can lift the most weight, um, who's the strongest, who has six-pack abs. But here is an example of somebody who couldn't tie his own shoes. And think about that for a moment. Can't tie your own shoes. That means you can't care for yourself. You have to have somebody to care for you. And he was too young for that. And so we worked very hard to get him more mobile, more flexible. Now he can tie his own shoes and do many things that he wasn't able to do just a couple of years ago.
That's that's uh, that's important. Yeah, yeah, and also like self-care is definitely a vital part of maintaining overall health and the well-being. So, what are some of the simple self-care practices our listeners can start today? What do you suggest?
Um, the easiest thing is just move your body more. I mean, honestly, it doesn't have to be rocket science and it doesn't have to be complicated. You can do something as simple as setting a timer. So every half hour or every hour, if you tend to sit for long periods of time, if your job requires you to sit for long periods of time, you get up, move your body around. Making sure that I'm here in New York City where it's been very, very, very cold. And oftentimes people forget that one of the major functions of our muscular system is to regulate our body temperature. And so if we're always cold, that means our muscles are always contracting. They become hypertonic. And if you're not hydrating, something as simple as drinking water throughout the day, that overtaxes the muscles, which makes them work harder to regulate your body temperature. So it becomes this vicious cycle where your muscles are dehydrated, you're out in the cold environment, you're trying to warm yourself up, and you just can't get warmer because your muscles are too tired to do that. So moving more, drinking more water, and a big one, if I had to pick one thing that everybody could benefit for, quality sleep. Make sure that you're getting enough sleep, make sure that it's good quality sleep, there are no distractions, you're not looking at your screen, right until the moment you climb into bed. That would be one thing that I think everybody could benefit for if I had to pick one thing.
That's amazing. Thanks for sharing this. And also, one more thing, I mean, coming to my mind, like, what are the key components of a holistic approach to the health? I mean, uh, for the listeners, I mean, how can our listeners integrate these components into their daily routines, if you can say it?
I think if you break it down, it's about being mindful, right? We're also, again, my clients are also busy. They're in their 50s, they have children, they have families they need to take care of, they have high pressure jobs. Many of them are business owners, entrepreneurs, they're self-employed, and so they're being pulled in multiple directions. And oftentimes it can be hard to prioritize your self-care. But I think prioritizing your self-care and then being mindful how you're prioritizing that self-care, whether it's moving more, whether it's de-stressing, whether it's making better food choices. If you're mindful, it makes it much easier to incorporate those things into your daily life because then they're front of mind or top of mind, as some people say, right? So one thing that I encourage all my clients who start a fitness program or an exercise program, I call it the 3 Ps of exercise adherence. And it's post it, meaning write it down somewhere, put it in your calendar as if it were like a doctor's appointment that you couldn't miss. Plan it. So if you're going to put down on your calendar that on Tuesday, I'm going to work out at 6 o'clock in the morning, make sure you know that when you start your workout, you know exactly what you're doing. You're not mindlessly trying to figure out, should I do cardio? Should I do weight training? Should I do flexibility? You have it all planned out. It makes it much more effective and efficient that way. And the 3rd P is promote it. And what I mean by that is tell everybody in your inner circle what you're doing. You're starting to take better care of yourself. You want to exercise on a consistent basis, right? So you tell your family members, you tell your coworkers, you tell your best friend. Oftentimes what ends up happening is they become your cheerleading squad, right? They'll cheer you on, they'll celebrate your successes, they'll support you when you fall off the wagon. Sometimes they'll join you, they'll become partners in your fitness journey, right? And the third is they'll keep you accountable. They'll ask you, how's it going with your fitness routine? They'll point out when it looks like you're starting to feel better, when you have more energy, when you're standing up taller. So those are the 3 things that I tell all of my clients. And it's been in the past, well, again, I've been doing this for 35 years. It's been very, very, very successful.
Amazing, amazing. And I mean, a holistic approach definitely ensures we address all aspects of our well-being, not just physical fitness. So, how do you help your clients stay motivated and committed to their health goals? Like, what are the strategies do you use to overcome the obstacles which we commonly battle with?
Well, the first thing is to be realistic about it, right? They're going to be obstacles. Life is going to get in the way. It's just going to happen. So we have to make sure that we plan ahead, or we have a contingency plan, so we can pivot or find a different direction or overcome those obstacles that will get in our way, whether it's, sickness or deadlines at work or other family commitments that you need to take care of. But what I tend to do with or what I do with all of my clients is we break it down. And why do you want to start taking better care of yourself? You want to start there. That's because that's going to be your motivator, right? Motivation is a finite source, meaning that it's not always there. Sometimes it's exhausted and you can't find it. And so what you want to go back to is why you started your fitness journey, because that's going to be your well. That's going to be your motivation well. If why you started your fitness journey, if those reasons still exist, you can always go back to them. And so you'll always have a source of motivation if you remember what your why is, right? So a good example is, I want to take better care of myself so I can be around a long time for my children, so I can play with my grandchildren. Well, when you feel unmotivated, just think about that. Think about your children, or look at your grandchildren's faces. Look at pictures of your grandchildren, and that will motivate you to continue.
That's very great. I mean, spending time with your grandchildren, wow, it's a definitely great one. And staying motivated can definitely be tough, but your strategies can obviously make a big difference. Thank you for showing this and sharing this. Also, like, what advice do you have for those who are struggling to balance their health and other life responsibilities?
I'm not a huge believer in finding complete balance, because I think our lives are always out of balance. It's like relationships, right? In relationships, there's always one person who's giving a little bit more than the other. It's about being consistent, right? Just continuing the journey, not giving up, accepting the fact that you have more value to give if you take, and the only way that's going to happen is if you continue to take care of yourself. And so, again, going back to struggles and obstacles and falling off the wagon, that's going to happen. Life gets in the way. It's how you deal with all of those obstacles, those struggles. And when you fall off the wagon, whether you can pick yourself back up and get back on the wagon.
Amazing. And so if our listeners wants to connect with you, how they can connect, and along with how they can start making small changes that lead to the big improvements.
Well, the easiest way to connect with me is on social media. So I'm on Facebook. It's just my name, Carlos A. Reyes, on Facebook. I also have a Facebook group called Ageless Performers Forever. And I'm also on LinkedIn. So those are the three main areas. In terms of how to get started, well, let's break it down, right? So let's say you're overwhelmed, you don't have a whole lot of time, but you know that you need to start taking better care of yourself for whatever reason. You don't feel good, you don't have enough energy to get through the day, you're starting to feel aches and pains in your body, right? And so what you want to think about is, how can I incorporate exercise into my daily life? How can I make it part of my daily life? So for a good example, right, just to break it down, if I decide today I'm going to go for a walk, well, that's cardiovascular exercise, right? Because I'm moving faster than I normally would, which means my heart rate is elevated, and I'm pumping more blood into my muscles, right? If I decide to go for a walk and I walk for 20 minutes, that's aerobic exercise. because it's long duration, long extended exercise, and I'm using my legs in as the predominant muscles, right? Let's say I go for a walk for 20 minutes to the supermarket and I buy 20 pounds of groceries and I carry those groceries home. So that's cardiovascular exercise, that's aerobic exercise, that's weight training because I'm lifting 20 pounds and I'm carrying it home. So right there, you've incorporated exercise into something that most of us do on a daily basis, if not multiple times a week. So again, going back to, it doesn't have to be rocket science. There are ways that you can structure your exercise and incorporate it into your daily life so it doesn't really have to take that much more time, energy, or effort. And that's one of the things that I really try to do with most of my clients who are very busy people. Two things I'm always thinking about. How can I make it efficient? And how can I make it the most effective?
That's amazing. Great. Great. So, thank you so much, Carlos, for sharing your insights with us today. To our listeners, remember that resilience and self-care are the key to the healthy and fulfilling life. So, for this, if you have enjoyed this episode today, there are a lot of information we discussed, and thanks to Carlos for sharing everything for us for our better. So, please subscribe and share it with your friends, family members who actually need to listen to this. And do not forget to stay mindful and keep striving for well being. So, with this, thank you so much.